So let's fly over the Coastal College TVET campuses located in KZN. And to set the scene, you've got Maputo right down at the bottom. You can see the natural harbour over there. And if you look far up on the top, you can see PE. Looks like an eagle flying into the distance. It's also a natural harbour. Right down at the bottom, you can see Cape Town. And we're going to focus on the middle area around KZN. So let's start flying in. The first thing I want you to see is that you've got TVET campuses running all the way down. So you've got Umtashana campuses near Maputo. Then you've got the Umlazi campuses around Richards Bay and around Zululand. And then as we get closer in, you've got the Elangeni TVET colleges. They're located in that huge township zone you can see around Inanda and KwaMashu. And then as we start to get closer and closer, we start to get to the Takwini colleges, which are in and around Durban. And then we have the coastal colleges located from Durban down to Umlazi and then going a little bit further down the south coast to Umbumbulu and those kinds of places. And I want to start off our coastal journey with Durban Harbour, the largest and busiest shipping terminal in the entire sub-Saharan African region. And it's a modern town, it's a modern city. So what you have here is you have Ushaka Marine World, which has taken the whole myth of the traditional Zulu kingdom and turned it into a place where you can go on slides and have a good time. And just behind it, the Durban Harbour, importing, exporting huge amounts of goods. So you've got massive shipping, rail infrastructure, you've got huge roads, and then you've got all sorts of secondary industries setting up in the area. And that means that Coastal College can use all these industries. That makes it one of the biggest colleges in South Africa, over 15,000 students. And the first campus we're going to visit is the Swinton Road campus. It used to be an old Indian technical college, and now it offers all sorts of programs, really in the electrical engineering zone, but also hospitality and tourism and educare. And then you can do all sorts of skills over here. Crucially, on top of that, it offers an entrepreneurship development unit, which I love. It's looking at small and medium enterprise development and community projects. You can do all sorts of things like business training. You can learn how to register your company. You can learn how to tender, and you will see Coastal College is full of these entrepreneurial ideas and programs. So now we're pulling out of Swinton towards the sea, towards the Umlazi River, and you'll see that it's been turned into a canal, and a huge V-shaped area has been dug out of the dunes to ensure that the river can actually get through to the sea. And we're going to pull out and fly around the old Durban airport, which was on the south coast. And there's talk of turning this whole area into a dugout port, although I doubt it's going to happen. And what you can see is you can see all the crude oil to petrol refineries over there by Sapref, those huge containers supplying South Africa. And now we're flying closer and closer to Umlazi, which actually has two of the TVET college campuses. And as you drive into Umlazi, you cannot help but be struck by the Glebelins hostels. You have 22,000 people basically staying within a 2-kilometer radius, 6 or 7 to a room, 600 or 700 per flat, sharing toilets, sharing kitchens, notorious for hitmen, murders, crime. But more recently, the community in these hostels have started to fight back and mobilize against such terrible and tough living conditions. And if we keep pulling around the southern edge of Umlazi, around the hill, we get to the Umlazi Bb Campus. Now, it's mainly a business studies campus, so you can do things like finance, economics, and accounting, and you can do financial management, you can be a management assistant, and you can do marketing management over there. What I want you to look out for is you can see on the one side, you've got Comtech, that's a blue technical high school on your right. And then on your left, you've got the old Itala Bank, which has been converted into a private school called Canaan College, which offers entrepreneurial and high-end tech education. So there's all sorts of innovation going on in the Umlazi space. And let's do a pull-out where we get a sense of the fourth largest historical township in South Africa, classically separated with the Umlazi River, with Phoenix, the Indian historical township, at your bottom. So we got a real old apartheid landscape still existing in this area. And we're now flying into the Umlazi Bb Campus on the other side of Umlazi. Now this is really an engineering campus, so you can do civil engineering and electrical engineering. You can also do primary agriculture over here, and they do grow some food for the local community in the area. You've got all sorts of skills you can do: plumbing, carpentry, bricklaying. And if you're wondering why the Umlazi campuses are called BB and V, well, that's because there's 26 sections to Umlazi, and they've named them alphabetically, except for I, O and X, which they took out, but then they made AA, BB and CC to replace those three. So now we're going to keep on flying south towards the coast, and we're going to go over the Mbokondweni River, and we're going to go to the KwaMakuta area, the Umbumbulu campus. And what a fascinating campus it is. It used to be an old teachers' college, and what's happened is they've started up what's called the training academy over there. And the idea is that they offer all sorts of training programs which they host for state departments and government departments and seaters, because it's got restaurants and 4 conference venues and accommodation for 50 people. And then they can combine this with courses on marketing and hospitality and tourism, so that the students actually work there. Brilliant innovation. So now we're doing a radical pullback over the whole of the south coast, with Umlazi and Phoenix at the bottom, and we're going to move across the sugarcane plantations towards the Bogu campus. Deep heartland of rural KwaZulu-Natal on the south coast. Now, it's a small campus. It really only offers office administration on the one side and tourism on the other side. But what this whole area also has, which much of the rest of South Africa has as well, is a terrible history of exploitation of labor. Now, what happened was, when sugar was found to grow in this area, and there was a huge need for cheap sugar across all the industrial centers of the West, and demand for cheap sugar meant a demand for cheap labor. And when slavery stopped, they needed to work with indentured labor. And initially what happened was they exported Chinese people. That didn't work, they left. Then they imported Indian indentured labor, and eventually these guys stayed and have settled in the area, surviving the terrible conditions over here. In fact, there was a high suicide rate amongst Indian laborers on these sugar farms, the old Reynolds farms. But they set up their own educational centers, often combining primary education for free for the locals, some technical and vocational education to improve skills in the area, and then crucially also like a dawah program, like an Islamic traditional program to help promote the Islamic faith in the area. And when it became a coastal college campus, they carried on offering those skills along with electrical engineering and public management. So now let's pull out from the Asalam campus. You could go further south still and get all the Esayidi TVET college campuses, but let's pull out over the Indian Ocean and track our way all the way back up the south coast, moving along past the southern sugar plantations, past Umlazi, past Durban, past KwaMashu and Inanda, moving across past the King Shaka Airport and Belito, and moving up the north coast to Appelbosch, where we're going to find a beautiful teachers college which has been converted into a TVET college campus. Now over here you can do office administration on top of civil engineering, electrical engineering. You can also do financial management and public management and tourism over here. Now it's a multi-purpose campus. So on the one side you can do civil engineering and electrical engineering with quite a strong emphasis on electrical engineering. You can also then do financial management, and you can do public management, and you can do office administration. Now you can see that it's a really nice campus. But what happened at the end of apartheid was the campus was actually abandoned and no one was using it. It was closed down as a teacher's college. It was only a occasionally used as a marking centre, with the infrastructure slowly rotting away. But once Coastal College has taken it over, it's been rejuvenated. It's got a really nice residence system that can take around 300 students. So let's pull out of the Appelbosch campus, and we're now circulating back round to Durban, so you can see the huge sugarcane plantations. And you can see Durban stretching out in the distance. But before we go to that last campus, I want to go via Mpumalanga, because Coastal College has started up the CKZN, Occupational Skills Training and Trade Testing Centre. And it's a brilliant space where all sorts of things are actually getting made. So they've got a truss manufacturing plant, which is genuinely making roof trusses to industry standards. You can do all sorts of entrepreneurial training where you learn about making nails. You actually make the nails. Toilet paper, you make the toilet paper. Barbed wire, you make the barbed wire. You can make steel frames and gates and school desks and office furniture and all kinds of things like that. Even sanitary pads are being made there to recognized SABS standards. So brilliant innovation space where Coastal College is not only making money from the project, but genuinely developing skills for its students. So now we've lifted out of Mpumalanga. You can see the Umgeni River on your left, the Umlazi River on your right, the N2 running straight down into Durban, and we're going to the last campus, the Durban campus, which used to be an old technical high school. And what's of real interest to me over here is the fact that it's got a tooling center of excellence. Now, what happens there is you basically get apprenticeships and you can do learnership training in tool, jig and die making. Now, really what that means is you learn to use machines to make things, and you make it to drawings. So they've also got a computer-aided design faculty. We're not only talking about learning basic machine use to make things, you've also got computer numerically controlled machines. So you can instruct the computer to do things and it'll cut things according to a plan. So a really useful initiative again with Coastal College. So Coastal College has all these innovation type activities. So you've got that entrepreneurship development unit in Swinton. Remember that? That's where you could basically do all sorts of interesting programs like learning how to tender and company registration. Then you've got the training academy in Umbumbulu, where you've got people from SETAs and from the government going there for extensive courses where they can stay and get fed by the restaurants and all the food being made there. You've got the CKZN in Mpumalanga making all sorts of stuff, and then you've got this trading center of excellence. But now on top of that, you're going to see, as I radically pull out of this, that they've also organized for a number of their students to go across to China. So we're going to go all the way up our coastline. We're going to see on the one side Madagascar and the Seychelles coming up. And as we keep on flying through, we're going to see India. And as we move past India, we're going to see that these students have flown all across the world to get to China. And in China, they basically go to a number of technicons and universities to learn engineering skills. So they can do it at Henan University, what's called the Yellow River Conservancy Tech, the Chongqing Industrial Polytechnic, and the Suzhou Vocational Institute. And they're really located across China. From the bottom, where you can see that beautiful blue, that's where Shanghai is. That's one of the colleges. And then moving across where the Yellow River and the Yangtze River are, you have those other technicons. The students that come back from that, I've heard, have really got good skills. They've learnt a lot in China. So there we have the ending, an unusual ending for Coastal College, because we're not ending with an overview of what the Coastal College looks like across its province. We've moved across the world to get a sense of this innovative college trying to do as much as it can with international and local links to make a difference in TVET education.